The night it happened, I was just a tired man at a gas pump wallet, in one hand receipt in the other, thinking about leftover meatloaf and a game on mute. Riverton summers hang on you like a wet coat, and the harbor fuel lot had that sticky smell of gasoline and old coffee. I heard sirens before I saw the lights, two cruisers swinging in from opposite ends, like they'd rehearsed it, tires squealing, doors flying, boots hitting concrete. Then a voice mean theatrical. On your knees, old man. Hands where I can see 'em. I didn't move. Not because I was brave, just I've spent a lifetime telling people to breathe before they react. Same rule for myself. The Sergeant Doyle, I learned later, stalked up with his hand over the holster like he wanted me to notice. The younger one, Officer Reed, hovered behind him, trying to look 10 feet tall, looking more like he wanted to be anywhere else. A couple folks by the door froze. Somebody in a denim jacket raised a phone. And then a girl with gold hoop earrings stepped under the light and said, "I'm live, officer. Don't touch my phone." Her name was Ari Thomas. That live button changed the night. Doyle pushed into my space until I could smell cigarettes and mint gum. "You deaf," he said. "Down." He threw an elbow toward the pumps like he owned the whole city. Fuel had spilled near Pump 6, a slick, dark mirror catching the blue and red. A drunk flicked a lighter across the lot. Tiny flame dead in a beat, but every stomach tightened. Reed whisper croaked, "Sarge." Doyle cut him off with a look sharp enough to shave. Cuffs, he snapped. "Now," I told him my name. Not the title, just my name. "Caleb Monroe," I said. "You've got the wrong..." He yanked my arm so hard the bones barked. Cool metal bit my wrist. Wrong what he grinned. Wrong day to get mouthy. He wanted me on my knees in a puddle of fuel. I stayed on my feet. "If we blow up tonight," I said quietly, looking past him at the phones, "the world will know who lit the match." He didn't like that line. Bullies never like mirrors. Booking was a fluorescent blur, bad coffee, worse jokes. They tossed me in a chair, bolted to the floor, and tried to write a story that never happened. Reed's hand shook over the incident form. You could hear the pen scratch like it was protesting. Resisting Doyle dictated pacing. Threatening language. Hostile demeanor. Reed swallowed hard. I leaned back and said, almost to myself, "Funny thing about ink, it trembles when it lies." He heard me. His ears went red. Somewhere down the hall, a phone buzzed. Doyle answered, voice dropping like it, a man who just remembered there's someone above him. "Yes, sir. We'll keep it off the news." He came back colder. A guard swung by my cell later, baton, tapping bars, whispering the kind of threat that's meant to be routine. Freedom's got a price in here, and I remember thinking routine is where rot hides best. I didn't sleep. I counted breaths and cinder blocks and listened to a chorus of men clearing their throats in the dark, each sound a life waiting on mercy. Around dawn, Reed slid an evidence bag through the bars with my wallet and keys, eyes glossy, like he'd been swallowing rocks all night. I'm sorry," he said. I shook my head. "Sorry doesn't change what's on paper." He flinched like I'd slapped him. Outside, the city woke up mad. Ari's stream had bounced from screen to screen while we were still pretending the cameras weren't there. By 8, a crowd had gathered at the courthouse, homemade signs, blue flags, drums and whistles, coffee steam in October air. The district reporter shouted into a mic like a hurricane had made landfall. You could feel the ground humming under your shoes the way it does when a marching band turns a corner. They released me with a smirk. Doyle leaned in at the threshold like he had a secret. "Go on, Mr. Monroe," he said, savoring the mister. "Bow a little lower on your way out." I walked into a wall of sunlight and noise, and a black sedan rolled to the curb like an answer. The clerk stepped out, neat suit, steady eyes, and opened the door. "Judge Monroe," he said loud enough to hush the square. "The court is ready. I wish I could tell you," I smiled. I didn't. I felt something settle. Years on the bench do that teach you the difference between winning a moment and honoring it. The robe they hand you looks like fabric, but it's a weight. I put it on anyway. They were already seated when I entered Reed's small as a folded napkin, Doyle stretching his jaw like he could chew through reality if he worked at it. You know that sound when a courtroom stands, wood creaking, feet planting, 100 breaths, sinking, there's power in that. I took the bench set, both hands on oak, scarred by 1,000 cases, and let the room go still. Yesterday I said steady, I had handcuffs on. Today I have a gavel. We're going to find out which one holds more truth. First Order read the report. Doyle told the story he had invented, how I lunged, how I incited, how I turned a quiet night into a riot by existing at a gas pump. His voice kept catching on words that never happened. The gallery didn't whisper. They stared. Then the door opened and Ari walked down the aisle with a flash drive clutched like a relic. She didn't play hero. She just said, "Your Honor, this is the live recording." The clerk plugged it in. The screen came to life. There it was, Harbor Fuel, that bruised blue light, my receipt in my hand. Doyle's voice on your knees wasn't a rumor, and it was pixels and sound waves bouncing off walls that had heard too many stories and not enough truth. Reed on the video looked like a kid caught between a father and a teacher, one demanding obedience, one asking for courage. The room went hot. Somebody hissed. Someone else whispered, "Shame," and I felt the word land on the tables like dust. I didn't yell. I don't do speeches. I just looked at Reed. "Officer, you signed this, didn't you?" He nodded, then shook his head, then nodded again. Panic's choreography, hands strangling a folder until the edges curled. I was told to. He finally breathed. Doyle slammed a palm down like a thunderclap. Not another word, he snarled through his teeth. And that was that mask off. He grabbed Reed's collar, yanked him half out of the chair, with a growl that made the microphone squeal. The bailiffs moved. The gallery surged the cameras, drank it up. I stood. "Sergeant Doyle," I said, and the sound of his name in that room had a different weight than it did in a parking lot. "Do you want to add assault in open court to your collection tonight?" He froze, not because he respected me, but because the whole country was suddenly a witness. Ari's phone shook in her hand, but the frame stayed true. "They're seeing this," she whispered, half to herself, half to every living room in America. Reed broke. "I didn't want to do it," he said, voice cracking, in thirds, shame spilling out of him like water out of a cracked pitcher. "I was told, sign it or lose the badge." He covered his face like a kid who's knocked over something priceless. Maybe he had. Maybe that's what we needed, something broken so we could hear it shatter. The prosecutor, Blake, rose with the calm of a man who irons his socks. "Your Honor, the statute is clear. Public recordings in the presence of officials are primary evidence." He didn't grandstand. He just put his finger on the line and let the ink do its job for once. Doyle shouted "witch hunt" and a few other lines borrowed from old playbooks, but it sounded like a man yelling at the ocean. The chant outside bled through the windows. "Justice, justice," like a second heartbeat under the floor. I banged the gavel once so the cameras would remember when quiet returned, and I said what needed saying. Indictment for unlawful arrest, abuse of authority, falsification. We'd try the rest later. That day was for naming things honestly. Doyle thrashed against the cuffs like a rusted gate. "You're burning the house down," he snarled, spit shining on his lip. "You'll miss us when you're scared." I leaned over the bench just enough that he could see my eyes. "We're not burning the house," I said. "We're cutting out the rot so the house can stand." Maybe that sounds clean. It wasn't. People cried. People cursed. Reed slid to the floor and whispered, "I'll carry it," like he was trying to make a bargain with a gun he didn't know how to talk to anymore. The crowd outside argued with itself. Some wanted firing, some wanted funding, some wanted both at the same time. That's the part TV doesn't love, to show the mess, the work after the verdict. I changed the names, the coroners, the gas pump number, because the internet likes to chew through stories and spit out people. But you asked for the truth told plain, like someone sitting at your kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug, telling you the night they learned what a voice can do. Here it is. I didn't win because I wear a robe. We won because a girl hit go live, because a young cop finally said I was wrong, because a room full of folks decided to look instead of look away. Power likes quiet. We made noise. So let me ask you out loud, straight up, what part of this hits your gut the hardest? The knee in the fuel, the pen that trembled, the phone that kept recording? When every instinct says, put it away. Tell me where you stand on this line between order and dignity. Have you seen a moment like this in your town, your school, your job? Drop your story, your take your fight in the comments. Was I right? Was I wrong? Or did we just scrape away enough paint to finally see the wood underneath? If you want more of these hard, honest stories, share this, subscribe, and invite one person who needs to hear it. Justice doesn't grow in silence. It grows when we talk.